The same is a 2019 single by Horrorshow featuring IE, premiering ahead of the duo's 5th studio album. It's a song of contrasts. The verses are hazy, intimate poems describing the change in a relationship, and the chorus is created by huge, sweeping hooks performed by IE. The tune is 3 minutes and 17 seconds with a total of 478 words. While the previous single, Rescue, and the preceding record, Bardo State, signaled a shift away from Horrorshow's sonic palette, the same is a challenge to their form. The same's content, which is to say the poem itself, is a maturation and continuation of Solo's ongoing writing. The hook is something else entirely. For now, we're going to split the song in half. First we'll break down the verses and content, then discuss the hook, and bring them together at the end. Before we do that, it's worth mentioning the title. The same, given Solo's interest in Drake, could be a reference to Nothing Was the Same, Drake's 2015 studio album, and even sonically, the two have a lot in common. While delving into the title too much isn't crucial to understanding the poem, we'll keep this in mind as we go through. The first verse starts with an introduction to the context and the subject matter. Very directly, this song describes a point in a relationship. It's charting the progress from the inception to the tipping point. Whatever happens next, whatever trauma or truth has been laid out and revealed, nothing will ever be the same.
I remember when I met you, girl, shit, how could I forget? You was best friends with the lady of a homie in my set. Walked into his backyard, stole the breath right out my chest. If you knew then what you know now, would you do it all again? All the years passed, water under bridges that I burned, as we headed down this road, navigating twists and turns.
All the years passed, water under bridges that I burned. This could be an intentional reference to The Show, a track from Horrorshow's second album, where in that track, Solo says, "Lessons learnt, bridges burnt, and forks in the road face."
We had to do it all at our own pace. Lessons learned, bridges burnt, and forks in the road face.
Bridges and roads aren't exactly a new concept in Solo's writing, and the idea of burning bridges ties to the theme of the song. The expression itself is an idiom from ancient Rome, where as part of warfare, they literally burned bridges in order to cut off their own retreat. Burning bridges, in a literal sense, means you can't go back. And Solo was applying the same logic to this relationship and perhaps his life in general, given this reference appears a few times on their second album. In its initial use in The Show, Solo was primarily concerned with reflecting on the past and describing and acknowledging how far they've come as artists. It does seem like in this particular context, in this new track, it's more about how this informs the future, and it looks a bit more ahead. Some other intertextuality I've noticed is the expression navigating twists and turns. Twisting and a turning while we're living and a learning is a phrase from After Dark from the previous record. It doesn't necessarily have to mean anything, but it is interesting that it reappears. Warden and Still explain that intertextuality insists that a text cannot exist as a hermetic of self-sufficient whole and does not function as a closed system. In a sense, or in a song for instance, nothing can ever quite be autellic. No art can be consumed by itself because it exists in the context of other art. By that merit, Solo has always written about similar ideas and with the same voice, but like every artist, ultimately we all write about what we've been experiencing. Not to suggest any references to his prior works are intentional, but rather that they are inevitable. For Solo, it seems the focus on relationships is a natural progression from his earlier searches for identity and the pursuit of what it means to exist at all. Now that Solo has explored and conquered some of those concepts in his earlier work, he provides us with a narrator who is well on their path and is now looking for someone to share it with.
Leading right up to this moment, you and me standing frozen, overcome, numb, must have hit a nerve. Now you've seen a different side of me, demons that I had inside of me. So would you still side with me? Are you down to ride with me?
Leading right up to this moment. There's a sense of predestination, but I think it's more symbolic than literal. I don't think we're supposed to believe Solo has chosen this road only to end up at this ultimatum. Because that's what this song is, the rendering of a revelation between two people and the potential consequence of this truth being revealed. And here we come to the central line of the song, demons that I had inside of me. Whatever the other person has just learned about the narrator, it's shifted this relationship forever. This is something Solo has spoken about before, but usually in a couched context. The direct addressal of demons without an explanation of what those demons might be speak volumes. Crucially, the song then is interested in the outcome of this revelation rather than whatever truth might have come to light. Are you down to ride with me? Aside from being very strongly in Solo's voice, the previous album also conflated riding and traveling with life, particularly in the first and last tracks of that album. And curiously, it also appears on The Show, the song we referenced earlier, where in the show, Nick says it's been one hell of a ride the past few years. I've had a look through the rest of Horrorshow's use of this expression, and until Bardo stayed, it was primarily used to reflect on the past. The idea of looking back and describing the journey until now as a, quote, ride, often by way of acknowledging support from family and friends, and reflecting on how lucky they are to make music for a living. The use of the expression and theme in Bardo's state, particularly in the track My Time, is about the present, the idea of being between life and death and trying to work out where you are. And now in the same, the expression is couched in a moment that will dictate the future of not just this relationship, but the narrator's journey as a whole. The use in the same brings us moving forward and looking ahead, a comfortable conclusion to the progress of this theme.
Tell me what you're thinking at the side of me. Cause the truth is that you don't look the same either. Thought we was in this deep, then it got way deeper. My goal to hold on to you, cause I know you are a keeper. It don't take a mind reader just to see.
This line in particular, thought we was in this deep, then it got way deeper, is interesting. It's we, it's not I, it's not you, it's a relationship, it's a shared experience. Like every relationship that is worth having, it's a two-way connection and an interplay. It's not a thin rendering of one person's pain or perspective. No one is a victim here, they're both participants. And the last part of the verse leads us into the hook, providing the understanding and context we need for the turn in the song. The hook is aesthetically very different to Horrorshow's previous work. In the same way the video has a very specific palette and style, so too does this tune. And based on the available tracks from the new record, this album is going to have a different flavor.
She don't look at me the same, but I don't blame her. There's nothing left to say. Got me feeling like a stranger. See, girl, I've been down for you. See, girl, I've been down for you, yeah. My goal to hold on to you, cause I know you are a keeper. It don't take a mind reader just to see.
IE's vocals are laid under and over solos to create an interesting, heady mix of singing and spoken word.
She don't look at me the same, yeah, but I don't blame her. There's nothing left to say, yeah. Got me feeling like a stranger. See, girl, I've been down for you, yeah. See, girl, I've been down for you, yeah. Still you wanna change, yeah. When we said we never change, yeah.
Now we're offered more detail of the revelation on both sides. But you still want to change when we said we'd never change up. Some central agreement that the relationship was founded on has been eroded, and finally it's come into focus, and there's a revelation on both sides that this has happened.
People so close, go and grow so distant. I guess nothing stays the same. Thought that we'd be different, but something's missing. Cause still you don't look at me the same. These thoughts keep on running through my brain. I can't take it anymore. And you cannot unsee the things you saw. After everything we've been through, can't be who we were before, for sure. But still you don't look at me the same. Now all that is left is pain.
I guess Nothing Stays the Same could be a reference to the Drake album we mentioned before, Nothing Stays the Same, or it could just be a coincidence. These thoughts keep on running through my brain. This is contrasted with the stillness of the moment, the rendering of two people standing frozen on an empty crossroads against the idea of racing thoughts. I Can't Take It Anymore is possibly a continuation of the themes explored in Rescue, the most recent single, which describes a relationship where two people want each other, but circumstances mean they shouldn't be together. Ultimately, the chorus and the hook expound on the concepts of the first verse directly and provide additional context in understanding what changed the relationship being described. The huge, swelling hook and busy melody contrasts with the heady, calm first verse. In a way, the song itself is a rendering of the contrast of the content. The contrast of the stillness of two people standing frozen on a quiet road against the huge melody and racing thoughts. But ultimately, it leaves us with a question. And to understand that question, let's take a quick look at the same chorus with one of Horrorshow's earlier classics, The Rain.
So play this song on the days when the rain keeps on and you wait and you pray it'll stop. And if you stuck in
she don't look at me the same, yeah. I don't blame her.
Spare a second to the thought that we all at the mercy of the gods. So instead of looking for somewhere to place the blame, accept it as a part of that big lazy.
There's nothing left to say, yeah. Got me feeling like a stranger. She gotta be down for you.
Go outside and stand under the clouds and embrace it as the rain keeps plummeting down and say, hush child from the joy to the pain. It'll all wash away in the rain. Hush child from the joy to the pain.
They're very different. And so the question that it brings to mind for me is, what makes a song sound like a certain musician or artist? It's a question that permeates music and every type of art. Whether it's Bobby Hall's dozens of Logic albums or the contrast between Drake's new dancehall tunes and his seminal albums. You could couch it as a question of genre. Horrorshow are still making hip-hop and rap, but they moved away from their previous genre of hip-hop into something new. And yeah, the question doesn't have an objective answer, it'll be different for everyone. Ultimately, in the craft, to me, the answer comes down to how the artist takes their intention and converts it into practice. Which is to say, how they execute on their intention and, in effect, what their praxis looks like. The song itself is laden with contrast, both in the content, the production, and against Horrorshow's larger body of work. As a mechanism, this contrast draws into focus what is and isn't present, and the track, by existing at all, is a representation of change. Much like the relationship it depicts, there's no way of going back. Once a bridge is burned and a road crossed, you can only move forward. Change is the only constant in life. And Horrorshow's music will never be the same either. Grappling with the desire to lock things in place is ultimately the song's central theme and a comment about art as an idea. You can't go back and change things. So the only question left is, now that you know what you know now, do you still ride with Horrorshow? Are you okay that they've changed, or are you ready to move on to something else? And hey, if you don't like the new stuff, that's alright. In the words of Jay-Z, if you want my old shit, buy my old albums. Thanks for watching. Let me know in the comments what you think of this new track and Horrorshow's new vibe. If you want to see more like this, you can view my breakdown of Stray by clicking here. And if you want to support what we do, why not subscribe and share this video with someone who you think might like it. Thanks for watching.